Go ahead.
Okay. Jeremy just showed us how cross-site scripting in general works, and once again, this is another case of where we have an application that has been given what it thinks is data information, but it actually executes it as code. Now, he went through some examples as to how this works in the background and how you can go in and craft your own exploits and slip them in there and make these things pop up. But for perhaps the vast majority of us who are not as smart and talented as Jeremy is, we might need some help getting this done. Well, fortunately, there is yet another tool, open source tool, that is readily available called BeEF. And it's a wonderful cross-site scripting exploitation tool. BeEF does come with your backtrack. By default, it does not come with the Kali distribution. You have to install it. I think it is available in your Samurai. If you go out there and look for it, the aptitude depository or whatever they call those things is BeEF-XSS. XSS. So apt-get install BeEF-XSS if you want to get that. It is primarily a tool for doing penetration testing. It's not terribly useful for doing vulnerability assessments because you need to have the vulnerability there and identified, and then you can go in and take advantage of it with BeEF. And what it does is it will take your browser and it will actually get what they call, it's called hooked into a BeEF server that's running on the machine that you control. And it has this, I don't profess to understand all the nuts and bolts behind this, but there is a beacon that goes back between the BeEF server that you control and the user's browser, between the two of them. Usually you will use a cross-site scripting trick or some SQL injection on the vulnerable application to get that call, that initial call to your BeEF server set up. But they only have to click on it once. Once that's done, you're good as long as that browser session is running. Okay, so what I have here is, well, as we see, we have Internet Explorer here, and I've got it running. I've got it pointed to Mitigations running on the virtual machine on the Apache server that we have running here. And then I've also got, when we go back to the virtual machine, hopefully the colors are a little bit easier to read now except the sun's coming down and washing it out a little bit more. I've cranked up the BeEF server here, and it's running away here, and you can see that it will give you the URLs that you need to use to contact to it. By default, it goes on port 3000, and it even comes with a handy little JavaScript, pre-written JavaScript hook that you can use to put in your cross-site scripting vulnerability. And then it's even got a graphical interface. So the next thing I'm going to do is we're going to go ahead and find my cursor, and we will crank up said graphical interface. Let's see if I still have it here under my most visited. BeEF control panel. There we go. That looks like what I want. Now, I bet we're probably going to have another color problem here, but in this particular case, you don't really need to see. Okay, so I got logged in, and I get this nice, friendly feature here. Over on the left-hand pane, what we're going to have here is a list of browsers that are currently hooked in, and then we have the offline ones. Those are the ones that are not currently hooked in. That's left over for some testing I did earlier. And then you get the nice steer and information on BeEF and things of that nature, but it's pretty much just sitting here waiting for something to happen. So what I'm going to do is, if we go back to our vulnerable application utility here, and we will look for, there we go, for our cursor once again. Get logged in. No. Oh, maybe I should have told it to remember my password. Oh. Okay. Now we get logged in here, and we're going to go to a page that I happen to know is vulnerable for cross-site scripting. Get it right here. It's the good old add to your blog page, at least as long as the security level is set at 0. This is susceptible to cross-site scripting. And the reason it's susceptible to cross-site scripting is because it allows you to put data into this text box and save it to the database. And when these data are then, retrieved and redisplayed back out onto the screen, they are not encoded as Jeremy said they should be. They are going to be executed. And what we're going to put in there is going to be something very simple. That looks like this. BeEF. All right, let's see if we can zoom in on that a little bit. We've got a script tag, and it gives the source of the script. That might look familiar. That was prompted to us back when we started up BeEF. It said, hey, here's a sample booking script that you can use. So, okay, we say, all right, we're going to use that and identify it as JavaScript. And then we're just going to save that blog entry. Now this page, what it does is it saves it to the database, and it also displays the blog entry back here at the bottom of the page. Now, as you can see, all that shows up here is the word BeEF. The rest of it doesn't show up. The script tag doesn't show up because it was not encoded as data, so it didn't get treated as data. It got treated as executable code. And if everything is working as I hope, when we go back to our machine, we will see that we have a new hooked browser. Yay! And it says, it's Internet Explorer, Windows 7, blah, 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 gives you what you need to know there. We'll come back over to here. There it is on the hooked browsers list. We'll highlight that. Right off the bat, it's already gone out there and collected a bunch of information about that browser, just by default, figuring that's, some of the stuff you're going to want to see. Now, I will tell you that in the last year or so, the browser manufacturers, what do you call these people who make our browsers? I don't know. But the major browser players have been putting some more security features into their browsers to at least kind of warn the users that something may be going on when one of these tools comes across. In particular, BeEF often uses Java to get this work done. So on the other end if the browser is set up for warnings in case, Java starts to come across. The user may get a, bar that they have to click on, or a little warning that says, Java, needs to go ahead and run. But that's usually not a problem because, you get these little things pop up on your browser. Says, do you want to run this? Well, you're trying to get someplace. Of course you want it to run. Everybody's going to click yes on it. It's usually not too much of an issue. But I will caution you that that is starting to show up more and more. So we've got a lot of information here on the Details tab. Some stuff about the particular page that they're looking at, including all the cookies. There's the user ID and username that we were playing with earlier. So now you've got them right here. Make that handy for you. And also built in is a Commands tab here within BeEF. And this is where we get a lot of the great stuff that's just put together for us. What BeEF does is it looks at that detailed information based on the particular browser and operating system that is being hooked to, and it's got hundreds of possibilities out there, and it goes through there and determines which ones are likely, to be able to work in this particular situation. So we can look at a number of these things. I'll go ahead. We'll just start out here with the social engineering because this was similar to what we saw Jeremy do just a minute ago. Now, in addition to listing these things, for those of you who are not colorblind as I am, they tell me that you can actually determine how likely a given exploit is to run in a given situation by the color of these dots. For those of you who that works, I'm jealous. I actually have to click on them and see what happens. In case you're wondering why you see so much green, or why I monochrome so many of these things. Okay, so we're going to go down here to something similar, and we're going to click on this pretty theft, and we still have a problem with the colors, but we'll highlight that there. And this is going to be doing a thing like Jeremy just showed us, except it's going to be point and hack for you. So we're going to pick the Facebook type of log on. And we're just going to say execute. And what it's going to do is it's going to go ahead and it's going to, through this beacon, send some information back over to that other browser. And then we'll go back to the browser. And at this point, okay. Well, here's a bit of what Jeremy was talking about. It kind of got stuck down here in the corner. Not necessarily the most impressive place to put it, but it does indicate that our Facebook session has timed out, and to put in your email password ID. You can also insert your own custom logo on here if you happen to know something that's going to help it make a little more believable to the hooked person. So do that. Click on the login. Yeah, let's click on the login. Are we suffering from one of those messages or something? Well, in every demo, there's going to be something that didn't work quite the way it did the night before.
I might try to go to the view blogs page Because you left the, so you left that cross-site script like a little bomb when you're waiting, right? Just waiting for someone to come to the site and visit. And when they visit the page, they're gonna get the hook.js file delivered to their browser, which is gonna open up that command and control back to your server there. So
Yeah.
I wondered if maybe on the add to your blog page, if there's some kind of weird like circular stuff going on. So I don't know if you can get over to the view blogs page from there. Might even get like F5 or something just to recycle it.
Yes, the F5 is probably a good key at this point.
Bail out.
Yeah, it's always one of these things that, you know, dang it, this worked last night. That's the-
So if you go to view blogs, link there right above the title, or right below that bar you're pointing to right now. It's on, yeah, try that page. And then choose the author. For author, just choose like everybody or your.
Yeah, it did do the connection because we see that over here on the left side of the BeEF. We can see that the
Yeah, it
browser.
definitely did that. It's like it had trouble with that add page.
Yeah, and it sent it over there, but it just wouldn't come back. Let's try a, okay, just another reason why sometimes it's better, as Jeremy showed, to, you know, have your own,
Yeah, different browsers.
different browsers do different things. Let's,
Try going back to Mozilla Day and then clicking on that drop-down box that had, where it's lets you pick who you want to view. And I think you put that under the Conrad user. So in
Yeah.
that drop-down box there, yeah, you drop down, or you can say show all. It's the very top. So, oh yeah, that'll work. Okay, so that should
okay, that,
provide a fresh hook for you.
yeah, that should resend it back over here
And there
for
it
our
is.
hook. So let's try a different one, just to cover myself here. We're going to do the old, this is going to be another social engineering, similar to what we saw a minute ago. And we'll look here in the log, and it says, okay, this has been sent over to the other browser on the other machine. And yeah, we're not getting, oh. I touched something in between. All right.
I'm gonna try to send like the JavaScript alert box or something that's easier for the browser to handle. Maybe that'll help.
Let's go back up here. Let's see. I believe that is now
Or the
here.
replace hrefs. That's a pretty reliable one.
Okay, let's try this one. We have a sends an alert dialog to the hooked browser. Okay, went over there. We got the ready coming back. And indeed, we did get the alert dialog. Again, this is kind of a case of where Jeremy says that somebody might look at that and say, well, you know, so what? We got an alert dialog. But what really means is that we were able to asynchronously execute, you know, the JavaScript necessary on that particular browser, you know, to get that to run. I mean, the user didn't have to click on anything. They were just sitting, you know, after they did the initial hook click, then they were just sitting there. We were able to, you know, kick that off remotely. where that really comes into play is when we can do some of these other things. For example, we can suck down, you know, the entire HTML of the page. We can go in and replace the hrefs on that page while the person is working on it, so that when they click on something, now it will redirect them off to where we want them to go after we've seen the page. You know, that could be our own copy of this particular application, at which point, because we know what the application looks like, because we've been able to duplicate the pages all along to get the page HTML while they were going through it, so we suck all those down, we build our own, you know, doppelganger of the website, change what we want, and, you know, we can just start harvesting information, you know, right and left. If you've got, if you're really lucky, this is, again, this is getting harder and harder than it was a year ago. It does have the ability to, I don't have it installed on this machine, but it does have the ability to integrate with Metasploit so that you could use some of these shells and things that you know, Adrian was showing us earlier. You know, if there's the Metasploit exploit for the particular environment that you have hooked in, so you can pick those things up. We also have the ability, let's see here, get registry keys. I believe that, you know, that's if you've got Internet Explorer and they've got unsafe ActiveX controls turned on the other side. You don't see, again, that happens most often if you've got a particular environment where you still have some of the XP machines and you still have some applications that they haven't yet gotten off of IE6, where they've got some Internet Explorer 6 specific code. They haven't got that off there yet. In those kinds of places, a lot of times they'll just have to have that allow the unsafe ActiveX set as the default on everyone's browser, whether or not they're using one of those IE6 applications. In which case, you can get in here, you can pull out registry keys through their Internet Explorer, and also execute raw JavaScript in there. Sometimes, again, if you can use the ActiveX controls, you can also call the file system object if they're using Internet Explorer on Windows, which will allow you to then, you know, just directly read files off of either off their hard drive, or you can go ahead and actually map network drives and then just read things out of anything that that particular user has access to. And again, this is all happening behind the scenes. If the user were really observant, you know, they might notice the flicker, the little, or down there at the very bottom of the browser window. But for the most part, this works really well. Once you can get them to do that first initial click to get that hook in there, then you've got them. Now the drawback is that once that particular browser session goes away, then, you know, your hook goes away and you're not going to have them anymore. There are some things to help you get around that. There is a persistence here that will create a new pop under window with the BeEF hook already there, so that you know, that can help keep that hook connected back to your BeEF controller. It can be a little obvious, you know, if they do happen to see that, then they might, you know, you got to be careful who you use some of these things on. You need to try and target people who don't ask a lot of questions sometimes on some of these things. Okay, mitigations. Well, don't have cross-site scripting vulnerabilities in your application. Don't have SQL injection vulnerabilities in your application. And where the SQL injection comes in, of course, is that you use it to inject the script into the database so that later when that record is called back up, it gets executed. And also, when the browser gives you a warning that maybe what it's about to execute might not be completely safe, there may be a really good reason why the browser is telling you that what it's about to execute might not be completely safe. And so some user training could be in order to just not automatically click yes on all those types of messages that come up. So that's BeEF, a really handy point and click tool. Went over some of the basics here, like I say, if you really want to get into it, see how it integrates in with Metasploit so that you could hook in browsers and there use the much more powerful exploits from there. Questions on BeEF? As we see, here's where it executed the instructions on the alert dialog.
Just a comment on the pop under. I noticed new version that the pop under window has its coordinates set, so it actually goes off the side of the monitor and it's off in like non-visual space.
Ah.
So that one was pretty neat.
Good. Okay. I had not noticed that yet.
I thought it wasn't working until I realized that I could see the slightest sliver of the edge of the window sitting, right along the right-hand side of the monitor.
Yeah, let's see if we have a couple minutes to see if we can see that here again. Truly still hooked? It appears to be. All right. Oh, you probably all didn't hear that, but I did hear the little noise on my card here suggesting that, yes, indeed, that pop under.
Blocked it.
I got pop-ups blocked. Okay. Okay, that's what the little beep was. All right. So, like I say, it's coming harder all the time because, But if we did allow that. And then up.
I think you can hit retry.
You get another one.
So I think the pop under is behind there. Like if you kind of move your top browser down a little bit.
Let's see. Yeah. Oh, just a brief digression. I have found that when you're doing cross-site scripting, if you need to divert the user's attention for a few moments while something quickly runs in the background, get a cute puppy. You could have a headless horse that'll roll across the screen and they won't notice it because they will be looking at that cute puppy.
Pig in boots is even better.
I'm sorry?
Pig in boots.
Pig in boots, okay, yes. Something to do the misdirection. Always.
You haven't seen the pig in boots? That was a big. Oh, sorry. You saw that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if we're. Well, Jeremy, it appears you're right, it's still there someplace.
Yeah, I don't know where it puts it.
I don't know where.
I think it's off the right hand side, but,
Yeah. Oh, well, no,
did it lose it finally?
yeah, it slipped off,
Yeah.
Okay,
It was behind for a moment.
yeah. Sometimes that's all it takes, just a moment to grab what you want to grab. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that's BeEF. Handy tool.